name is Cheryl. I'm an orientation and mobility specialist with Guide Dogs Singapore. And today with me, I have Charmaine and Fazana from Singapore Association for the Deaf. You want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Charmaine. I'm the case manager in the Singapore Association for the Deaf. And we work with the hard of hearing as well as the deaf, and then as well as the deaf-blind.
Hi, I'm Fazana. I'm the intern that supports Charmaine in the deafblind program.
Okay, very nice. So just to give a summary, Guide Dogs Singapore is actually working together with SA Deaf to support the deafblind community in Singapore. Maybe Charmaine, you just want to walk us through what exactly is who exactly are your target audiences and what exactly is deafblindness?
So for us, deafblindness is what is deafblindness, and actually who is considered to be this group. So for deafblindness, right, it's actually individuals whereby they are diagnosed with vision and hearing loss, regardless whether is it congenital, means that since birth, whereby they are diagnosed with disease such as Usher syndrome, Chart syndrome, or maybe perhaps when they are in their mother's womb, the mother actually got a rubella disease. Yeah, so there is a high possibility for this group of people who gets born and then they are diagnosed with deafblindness. So there's another group which is acquired deafblindness, whereby these individuals actually get the condition through maybe an injury, a trauma, illness. Yeah. So why is it called acquired? Because it means that the individual was not born deafblind, but then over the later years in stage, they actually acquired this through maybe an external factor or a sickness or illness. Yeah.
Okay, so let's say I am someone who has total vision loss, so I'm totally blind, and I acquire a hearing impairment halfway through. Am I still considered someone who is deafblind?
Yes, you definitely will fall into that category of deafblindness, as long as the medical professional actually diagnose you with both vision as well as hearing loss. So in this term, right, we actually work with individuals regardless of varying degrees of vision or hearing loss. So if a person is diagnosed with a mild vision loss or diagnosed with a mild hearing loss, they would then fall into the category of deafblindness as long as they have both medical conditions.
Okay. Right. So let's say I'm not legally blind, but I know that I have a mild vision impairment, but it's non-correctable, for example. So I know that I might be going blind in the future. Will I still be eligible to join the deafblind program?
For this, as like I mentioned, the individual will then have to go and seek for medical advice. So if the professional actually diagnose them, not yet diagnosed, but they actually have a handwritten note or memo indicating that there is a high possibility that this individual will eventually get blind, and then that's where we know that this person is actually moving towards being a deaf-blind person. We will then be able to also extend our services to actually prepare the person on what is the skills that is needed to prepare him in the event if it happens in future.
Okay, nice. So let's talk about the deafblind program. What exactly are your goals or the goals for this deafblind program that is coming up and already starting?
Yeah, so for this deafblind program, it's still very, very new. And then it's very good that we actually have a very good collaboration with Guide Dogs Singapore. Our 4 main goals will actually consist of, the first would be equipping the individual with a new mode of communication skill. That would be the first goal. The second goal would be to equip the individual with activities of daily living so that they'll be able to retain their dignity, in the event if their condition actually do worsen, and then they eventually find that they have to actually rely on someone for their daily activities, whereby we actually feel that it's really important to be able to equip them with the ADL skills so that they can still be independent in some way or another. The third goal would be independent traveling. We find that it is important to actually equip them with the necessary independent traveling skills, so that they will still be able to go out and explore and not to rely on others to bring them out, to still be able to independently travel without much assistance. So the fourth would then be education as well as employment. We do understand that this goal, the last goal, is actually a very far-fetched goal because definitely it will be quite hard for them to actually be reintegrated back into society. But however, we do not want to leave this option out. Therefore, we feel that employment and education, the goal, right, should not be left out. So our program consists of these four main goals.
Thank you. So very nice. Amongst your four main goals, right? Actually, GDS is helping you out with the second and the third, which is the activities of daily living as well as the independent traveling skills. But let's talk about the first goal, which is communication first. What would you say are some problems or some ways for people who are deaf-blind to communicate? Or what does your program offer in terms of communication?
Maybe before that, I would want to emphasize that our organization also supports in terms of casework and counseling. So we feel that there is a need for us to actually build a rapport with the client first, and then to actually understand their needs and goals, to actually discern whether are they even ready to take on these four goals that we have in mind for them. So in the event if the individual is still in the denial stage, he or she will not find that it's necessary to actually pick up any skills at all. So therefore, in terms of the emotional support, we will then be working with them first through that part whereby they have already accepted their condition and they want to improve. Before we will then let them move on to the goals, which the first one will.
Nice. Okay, so in summary, what happens is that maybe someone is referred to this deaf-blind program, then they will be sort of referred to you, Charmaine, because you are a case manager and case worker, right? Yeah, so what happens is then you'll just do an assessment to see the goals and needs and also at what readiness level is the person at this current point in time. From there, you will then see which goal would be most necessary for this person, whether it's a communication, ADLs, independent traveling, or is it just like the education and employment direction. Okay, nice. Okay, so let's talk about communication. What is the difference in communication for people who are deaf-blind as compared to maybe just deaf, maybe just blind, or maybe just someone without deaf-blindness?
Love your question. So in this case, right, the difference is really huge. So for individuals who are deaf, their first mode of communication is actually sign language. So they use sign language as the first mode of communication, and then they rely on visual to actually do sign language. So for people who are blind, their first mode of communication would normally be Braille, and then it's also speaking. Braille as well as speak and listen. So for deaf-blind individuals, they who have lost their vision and hearing, regardless of what kind of first mode of communication that they have already acquired when they are young, they will then realize that it's not possible to continue with what they have already learned, because if the person is, for example, hearing or normal, okay, it be like you and me, the way we are conversing, okay? So for the individual, okay, who has become deaf-blind, the most normal mode of communication that you actually equip them with would be tactile sign language. So what is tactile sign language? It would be sign language, but then instead of using vision to actually see how what another person is actually telling them or signing to them, they are basically relying on a sense of touch. So you'll be signing into the person's hands.
Okay. To give an example, can you say good morning? Can you say something in sign?
For sign language, good morning would be like good morning.
Yes.
So good morning in sign language. But then if the party is unable to see the good morning, then how?
Then they will
so
just
that's
hand over hand for you, right? So for example, if I'm the person with deaf blindness and you were doing that good morning, my hands will be touching your hands to feel that motion of what you're trying to sign.
That motion, as well as since his hand will be on my hand, right? So his hands will be here, and then another hand will be with me on my elbow. And then when I lift his hand towards my mouth to say good morning, his hands will be the one touching my mouth. So he can actually feel the motion that is good morning. But that will only work if the person understands sign language.
Yes.
So if the person don't understand sign language, right, very hard to actually.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
is there what is the starting point of learning for someone who is deaf blind? Is there like a easier form? Like do they learn words first or is it spelling first or what is it?
For us, we actually we did go run through this on what is the most easiest way for an individual who is deafblind to actually pick up a new communication method. So what we actually concluded, right, is actually to teach these individuals basic keyword signs first. Means
Ah,
the most daily life most important signs, instead of
coffee.
those lengthy sentences. Yeah, those very daily signs that can be used in the household setting that is most important, because there is no point if the individual picks up the sign and then the family members don't understand, right? Yeah, so we also try and emphasize that the family be a part to actually learn the keyword signs together with the client, so that they will still have that communication factor at home.
Okay.
Yeah, so the first point would be to concentrate on the keyword signs,
Keywords.
I would say.
Just to share, like I went for a deafblind conference in Australia once and I only learned a few words. Good morning, coffee, and toilet, and I survived through that conference. Coffee, toilet. Yes, and I want to talk about another mode of tactile sign language, which is finger spelling. Can you tell us a
Yes.
little bit more about that, Shamin?
Yeah. So for finger spelling is actually the most basic among the sign language. Like for me, myself and Fazana, when we step into the first SGSL sign language class, the first thing that we're taught is actually alphabet. Yeah. So it will
So
be
this kind,
spelling.
right?
Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
there's the hand gesture kind, which is the same as a regular sign language for people who are hard of hearing. But then there's also the finger spelling kind.
For deafblind, that one it would be the
Yeah.
deafblind alphabets. Yeah.
Deafblind
For
alphabets. Ah, okay.
deafblind alphabets. So deafblind alphabets would be to use the touch like A, B, C, D. Is to really touching the points, okay, to actually spell out the alphabets. So it's really using the sense of touch on a person's palms to actually try and understand what the other party is actually saying to them. But however, this takes a little longer because the person has to spell out every single word.
Yes.
Yeah.
So to give a more visual description, basically what Shamin is doing is that she has her palm out, her left hand out, and on her left hand, right? So for example, if I were to touch the fingers of her left hand, the thumb will be A, the index finger will be E, the middle finger will be I, the fourth finger will be O, and the last finger will be U. So in between all that, there's like A, B, C, D, E, which like different gestures on the person's hand to signify the different alphabets for spelling. And that's how you spell like really just alphabet by alphabet. That was actually how I communicated throughout the whole deafblind conference, because I didn't know sign language, but I knew tactile finger spelling sign language. Okay, so what it sounds like is that you can learn major keywords first. Spelling is also, you can learn the basic alphabets first, which is not too difficult, and then from there, then that's how you start moving on to other modes of communication, like whether is it you might want to go into braille if that is suitable for you, or just focus mainly on sign language.
Yeah, focus on tactile sign language, I would say.
Okay. Can I just ask, right, part of your communication goal under your programs, do you also equip maybe family members or close friends or the network around the person with deaf blindness with the same communication skills?
As of now, we do have individuals who have indicated interest in wanting to learn a new method of communication. However, because of the COVID measurements and the working schedules of the clients, we haven't really been able to really set a concrete time to actually cater to their individual needs in terms of learning a new communication method. However, we do have already set a curriculum for them, a plan whereby we know what is needed for the individual to be able to communicate at home, and whether the family is able to be a part during the sessions. So for example, I have a client who actually told me that she's interested in learning maybe tactile signing, tactile keyword sign. So that's whereby I told her that I might need to involve her family as well. Otherwise, basically there will be no point. She'll be signing to herself at home and nobody will understand, right?
Yeah, it's a bit like learning Japanese and then you talk to yourself at home. Okay, cool. Okay, let's move on. Let's say I am someone who is hard of hearing. Let's say I am deaf. but I am losing my vision. How do you like, let's say you get a case like that, how would you then advise this person to prepare themselves for being deaf blind, like deaf first then blind?
Yeah, in this case, right, first I would want to find out what is the person's first mode of communication. So if the person is deaf, right, then I want to see whether is the person using sign language or gestures or or any other
Or
signs or
lip
just
reading
writing,
or something, right?
yeah, or lip
Okay.
reading. Yes. Yeah, so this will be the first thing that I will need to assess, because if there's no communication, then it's very hard for me to do any form of intervention or any preparation with the person. Yeah. So then in the second step would be I would try to link him up with the Singapore Association for the Visually Handicapped as well, so that they will be known to them. Yeah, and then from their end, I also try and see whether, because in the event if he's still able to see, but then his sight is actually slowly deteriorating, I can actually work with SAPH to actually find out if there are any possible assistive devices that can still assist in terms of
like whether it's a magnification device or something like that.
yes, in terms of helping him through with his daily life lah, at this point in time, to improve his quality of life at this point in time. Yeah. So then I will then also let him know on what is what might happen in the future, to actually prepare him that there are individuals who have actually gone totally deafblind, and these are just some of the skills that we feel that might benefit him if he picks up. So then I will turn towards the deafblind program, and then I will slowly explain to him why we find that this is suitable for him, why is this important, and then how the skills that he learned from the deafblind program can actually benefit him in the future, in the longer run. Because I have individuals who always tell me that they still can see, they still can hear, so they don't want to learn first.
Yes.
That's whereby I step in and I say that you cannot wait, because in the event, if in the future, if your condition suddenly deteriorates, right, suddenly, it will be very hard for you to actually pick up new skills. So why don't you try and pick up these skills first when you're still able to see and hear, okay, and then prepare for the future. Yeah, that's just what I will
do first. So just to share, Charmaine has actually referred a client of this sort of background over to GDS before to learn mobility skills. So let's say we do get a client from SA Deaf who is a part of the deafblind program. What happens is then this person is sort of like learning the basic skills needed for vision impairment. So things like basic white cane skills, home adjustment, how to operate things that they used to operate at home, like maybe the microwave, the TV, maybe a remote control fan, or like even a handphone. So GDS will then support SA Dev's deafblind program in terms of like a beginner's skill moving into vision loss. Okay. Then let's talk about the second category of person. Let's say this person is totally blind and is going deaf now. How would this person differ in terms of like the assessment process or like the intervention process as compared to the first category of person?
Yeah, so in this case, we will also be, it will be very similar to how we approach the deafblind, whereby we will also introduce the deafblind program to them, and then to introduce to them, on the benefits, as well as, what to do to prepare for the future. Because eventually, right, these two different modes, these two different categories of clients, whereby, whether the first group is deafblind first, or whether the second group is blind deaf, eventually they will become the same, whereby they lose both conditions. It's just that their starting point is a bit different, whereby they both picked up different modes of communication skills, when they are young, and the way they have done things and live their activities in daily living, right, is different, because depending on the conditions which set in first. But then eventually the skills that they will need to be equipped with would then be the same, which is, new mode of communication, relearning, independent traveling, and then also hoping to be able to reintegrate them back into society, which falls under the education and employment.
I think in summary, maybe it's just like which mode of communication do they need to learn first? For example, like learn mix, like maybe I know sign language, I need to learn Braille, or I learn Braille, I need to learn sign language, for example.
Yes.
In terms of, maybe I'll just share in terms of mobility and ADL wise, right? when we teach someone who is deaf first, then going blind, it's very different from when we teach someone who is blind first, then going deaf.
Yes,
Because
definitely.
when someone is visually has vision loss first, right? We actually use a lot of hearing methods in our teaching. So whether it's like echolocation, listening to traffic, listening to cues in the environment, like to travel from one place to another, we actually use a lot of that. So when we find out that someone has is acquiring a hearing impairment, losing hearing, we will then need to adjust our lessons entirely. So what we'll do is we will reteach the routes that they already know, but use more tactile cues on the ground, use more like other sensors, like maybe whether it's a heat sensors, or maybe whether it's like finding some other landmark in the environment to readjust their current routes to remove the sound cue portions, basically.
Yes. Yeah, this I would definitely agree. I mean, I totally understand. It's just that from a point of perspective, it's more of that the goals will definitely be the same for these individuals. But like you said, the method of learning, right, is totally different. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Let's say I am someone in the community who knows someone who has deaf blindness, or I am someone who has deaf blindness, or maybe I want to refer over. How do I do so?
We actually came up with EDM, whereby we actually shared out to the community and all the social service organizations in Singapore. And then in the EDM, right, there is 2 points whereby an organization or the public can make a referral. Means that if they happen to have a deafblind friend, or they have a colleague who's deafblind, or they know someone who's deafblind, they can actually do an online referral through the EDM to our organization. And then the second one would be the deafblind themselves, if they are able to still access technology, to actually make their own referral to us so that we can make the outreach to them. So this is really based on the digital technology referral process. But for those who are unable to access technology, right, we can only really rely on our outreach programs, or by word of mouth, or really through referrals from others. Yeah, because for us, definitely we know that in Singapore there might be a lot of other individuals who does not know about our services and are also suffering from deaf blindness. That's why we are trying to cover as much ground as we can within Singapore in terms of reaching out to all the social service organizations first. Yeah, at least they will know that this program exists, and if they happen to come across any individuals that they're working with who is suffering from this condition, they will be able to make the referral to us. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so in summary, like basically we have reached out to the different organizations to get referrals from, like whether is it like your social worker, your occupational therapist, your speech therapist, whoever.
As of now, we have reached out to about 245.
Oh, very good. Okay, let's say you are not known to any of these organizations. Don't worry, just head to anyone you might know. Just get a hold of either SADEF's number, or if you want GDS's number. Basically, just get a hold of any one of us, and we will do that referral for you and include you in this program. So no worries, just find some way to get a hold of us. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, you can also find the referral link actually in our publicity for deafblind that we've been doing since 4th July.
Nice.
So you can find the referral link on our social media websites like Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn.
Okay, cool. So nice. You can go to just Google their Facebook account and search for SADEF and then find that EDM. Yeah. Okay. Finally, are there any future plans for the deafblind program? Because I think I might be interested in something like an engagement program, or like forming a community, or like games night, or like outings. Are any of this in the plans or works?
Yes, definitely. We do have a lot of plans that we have in mind, but then sadly, as of now, everything is stuck due to the restrictions. But then I'll share a bit. So one of the first events that we're actually thinking of working on would be a collaboration with SAPH, the Singapore Association for the Visually Handicapped. I don't know if you've heard of the Dining in the Dark, the blind version. I'm thinking of doing the Dining in the Dark, a deaf blind version, whereby the person dining in the dark without the sense of hearing and without the sense of vision.
Okay, that's cool. Wow.
It would be one of the events that we're actually thinking of working on, to actually let people to understand a bit more on the challenges of how a deafblind individual actually,
It's very different.
partake their, it's totally different experience altogether. This will be the one event. The second event would be with GDS to do an experiential session. Yeah, why you look so shocked?
We are. Okay, continue.
Yeah, you want to do an experiential session with GDS to actually teach individuals as well as the staff on how to use the white cane and how it feels like to navigate around without the sense of hearing and vision. I think I talked to you about it before.
But this one is more for the staff, right? What about
for this
programs for the clients themselves?
The clients themselves, that would be for clients themselves, the first thing would be we are actually engaging, we're actually building up an interpreter guide volunteer group, whereby this dedicated pool of volunteers, right, will be able to assist clients in terms of their daily activities, like bringing them out, for outings, for events, to places that they want to go, to actually just form a rapport with them, to build friendships.
Like befriending.
Yes, like a befriending service to actually let them be able to still have some form of connection with the community. Yeah, this is one of the major things that we're doing now. And of course, outings. I would love to bring them out for outings. However, we do not have enough individuals who are actually trained in terms of the basic guiding techniques. It's another person's life. I do not want to put any of them at risk with someone who is not trained, to actually bring them out. So therefore, I find that having this interpreter guide volunteer group is very important, because we can then teach this group of dedicated volunteers on how to do basic guiding techniques, how to keep himself as well as the client safe when bringing the person out. And do activities with them. Yeah.
On our side, perhaps what we can do is we actually have a dedicated group of volunteers who are our long-term serving volunteers who are very well trained in guiding already. What we might proceed to then do is either teach them tactile sign language or like basic, like certain keyword skills, so that maybe next time if we do have any collaboration in terms of like outings or events, we can just then also tap on this group of individuals.
Definitely.
So reach out to us as well. Okay, cool.
So definitely,
Cool. I think that's all the information like that is important for now. Maybe next time when the deafblind programs becomes a bit bigger, we might have another conversation all over again. But maybe but maybe to just end this meeting, maybe the both of you can just share a little bit about how you decided to dedicate your working time to this deaf-blind population in the first place. Is there any like one scenario that sort of made you want to work with them, or was there any like memorable client or a student that sort of touched you in that sense?
For me, it is actually quite a big jump for me, because I used to work with the youth sector. Then, however, when I left the job and I saw this current position that they're actually looking for individuals who are willing to work with deaf-blind individuals to actually start something for the deaf-blind. That's whereby I felt that this could be a challenge, definitely, as this group of individuals really falls into the gray area in the disability sector. I then, came on board, and then to challenge myself to see, what is it that can be done to actually to be able to assist these individuals to have to be more integrated into society. This group of individuals really do fall into the gray area in the sense whereby there's no organizations in Singapore that assist them, which is a bit weird.
It's like, you're deaf? Okay, let me send you to SA Deaf. But if you're blind, I'll send you to like SAVH or GDS. But what about if I have both?
So they are stuck. So that's why I actually felt that there was a need to actually start this program. That's where I met my first deafblind client. Then after building a rapport with her, I actually found a lot of other things that that can be done for these group of individuals. So and for me, it's more of they are very inspiring in a sense whereby they are people who has both conditions, yet they are still striving to try and be integrated back into society, to try and do the things that normal people can do, but it's a challenge for them. So it's really all inspiring. yeah, it's one of the biggest motivation that I have to actually to equip them to be more independent.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like there is just a little gap that needs to be like sort of filled, and then they can
Mm,
just be bridged to how like the skills that they used to have before they acquired both deaf blindness, or maybe just
yes.
integrate into like society as skillful as anyone else. And
Yeah.
I'm very glad that you actually did
Yeah.
start this program.
That's why we work well together.
Okay, how about Fazana? Do you want to share a little bit of something?
For me, it's similar to
I was
Shami.
actually shocked that she came on board with me.
Because I came from a completely different field as well. I came from a business field, not from a social service field. So this is actually my first internship in relation to social service. It's also deafblind, which is actually particularly very new. I was very interested in it because firstly it's new. Secondly, a lot of things not being established yet. So I was very excited to help, publicize about the program, also helping out clients. It's technically based on research, deafblind people it's very limited amount of people in Singapore also,
Yes.
like in a lot of people in the country. So I was just very excited that these deafblind people, they could come to us and then we can help them in regards to like maybe their needs or their emotional needs, whatever needs. So yeah, in short, I was just very excited to help the community, particularly the deafblind community, in terms of supporting them as well as bringing awareness to their conditions. So yeah,
Yeah,
thank
cool.
you.
Okay, my turn to share. Okay, so like my first client when I graduated as an orientation and mobility specialist when I was in Australia, my first client was someone who had deaf blindness. I haven't even start teaching like someone who is totally blind only. Like my first client had deaf blindness. I couldn't communicate with this guy. What happened was my mentor at that time, so she's my teacher also. She actually was like let's call this guy Joe. She was like, Joe. She signed finger spelling to him. Joe, teach Cheryl how you speak. Bye. So then Joe, who is maybe like about 50s or in his 50s or 60s, he then dragged me by hand around the house, and then he started just tapping my finger. At that point in time, I had no idea what finger spelling was. I've never interacted with someone with hearing impairment before. Yeah, so he started just tapping around, and then he said the word out. So for example, bedroom, kitchen, study room, toilet, and then he just tap 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 tap. Then after that, he brought me back to the kitchen, sat down, and then started spelling every word for me, like A B C D E F G and stuff. So I was like, oh, okay, cool. Then he was like, okay, now I want to learn this route from my house to my workplace. Teach me. Then I was like, oh, A B, and then I typed. I spelled it really, really slowly. Sometimes he got so frustrated with me, but he hung in there. We finished 2 routes together, and he's just the best guy ever because like he actually taught me a language rather than me teaching him lah. So yes, that was my first experience
Long
with
did
someone
the
deaf.
2 session thing.
The first
I
one
thought you
took
were
much.
destined to be with
Yeah,
deafblind.
Because you
right.
have to spell, right?
The funny thing was right after that, right? The first route was to his workplace. The second route was to his. So he had a gathering that he always goes to on a certain day, and it's like a activities club for people who are deaf blind. So they just moved to a new building, and he needed to be orientated throughout the whole building. So I brought him, like my turn. I brought him around the building, toilet, room 1, room 2, elevator, level 1, level 2, that kind of thing. So it was my turn to do that for him. And then after that, he had other friends in the engagement community group thingy that wanted to learn also. So then I started finger spelling with everybody there. Yeah, so it was like a it was just such an interesting new experience for me, and it's just yeah, very memorable. So when I came back to Singapore, I knew that like we needed to do something like that, and I'm just very happy that Charmaine has the exact same thoughts as me. Yeah, very happy to support you all in this, and I hope that it will grow much bigger, and yeah, more volunteers sign up. It's not that scary, it's not that difficult. You really just need to learn a bit more in order to be a volunteer in this area, I would say.
So I always tell the organizations, okay, whenever they tell me that they're not ready,
Yeah.
that's where it triggered me, and I'll be like, then when will you be ready?
Yes.
I am not ready. I am not experienced in this field at all. but then I feel that there is a need to actually learn along the way.
Yeah.
Okay, gain some practical skills and then just start.
Yeah.
Okay, don't keep stopping. If you keep stopping, right, and think of you know what might happen or whatever consequences that might happen, I mean,
You'll
if
never
you
do
keep doing
anything.
this, you'll never be able to do anything. Yeah.
Like looking
So,
back, it was actually a very simple, like I was very hesitant to do it, but looking back, learning the skills, it was actually very straightforward, very fast, very easy, and you get to use it for the rest of your life. Okay, cool. I'm very excited for what's coming up for the deaf blind program, and I think we are gonna stop here. So thank you for your time, Shamin and Fazana. For those listening in, if you have any questions, leave them down in the comment section down below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you just want to reach out to SA Deaf, the link is down below. There will be captions and a Word document file for anyone who might not be able to access this video visually or through audio. If that's all, shall we say bye? Bye, everybody.
bye. Thank